A couple years back, a new investment opportunity started popping up everywhere on YouTube.
Learn about Airbnb arbitrage.
Airbnb arbitrage.
Airbnb arbitrage.
Right. Airbnb arbitrage is super cool.
Bryson Blocker and Inayah McMillan became recognizable after being featured on Ryan Pineda's podcast and $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Then, an exposed video was made about them that generated hundreds of thousands of views. This does not look good for you. I mean, let's be real. I decided to confront them about the accusations.
It's not a scam. You just didn't complete it.
The people want to know, how many listings do you currently have on Airbnb?
Okay, so we have Airbnbs that we rent, and then we have one house that we own. Right now we have 6 Airbnbs that we rent in St. Louis, Missouri that are listed, and then one house that we own in Glendale, Arizona.
How much do these Airbnbs make gross, like in total, your total portfolio? How much are they making every month gross? You know, because those are the numbers you'll see on social media. Like, we make 60 grand a month. So how much is gross, and then how much is net?
Okay, so our best month, which was May of 2022, that's when we had just got our 11th unit. We made a little over $58,000 that month. That was revenue, that was not profit. Profit was about 60% of that. Now, each Airbnb really does depend on the size of it and how much it makes. So I would say our smaller properties bring in about $1,000 to $2,000 profit per month, and then our mid-size bring in like $3,000 to $5,000 profit per month, and then our bigger properties, which the biggest we've had are like 3-bed, 3 baths or 4-bed, 2 baths. Those were bringing in like around $6,000 profit per month, I'd say.
You mentioned earlier that you have one that you own and then others that you lease. And I think this is what gets a little confused by a lot of the audience, a lot of the people that are leaving negative comments on social media, is this idea that you're actually renting the property and then this is the arbitrage model. And so I know when you run ads and when you speak about this, sometimes people only catch like 30 seconds of it. And it's like, you don't need background in real estate, you don't need your license, you don't need any money. And so what's the actual truth about people starting with this business model? Do you really need no money?
You don't need any of your own money. You're going to need money of some sort. So we teach business funding. Like, you go to Chase Bank, you get a 0% interest credit card. And technically when you start, it's not your money, but it is money at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have this belief system, because they were taught by their parents, mine included, which is you need significant amount of money to get into real estate. And so you think, well, I need 20, 25%. You do the math on the average price in Vegas right now, you're talking $100,000. And then you see you two on social media saying you don't need $100,000, you need just a few thousand. It's like, I think there's a little confusion there. So I think it's the business model that kind of throws people off. And so it sounds like there is truth that you don't necessarily need your money to start. You need business funding, but you do need a few thousand. And what is that kind of startup cost that you see in students and with yourself? What's the general number that you point to?
On average, again, it always does vary, because normally based on the location of your unit, rent might be higher and certain things like that. And then obviously the size of it is going to depend on the startup cost, because a big portion of your startup is your first and last month's rent, your deposit, and then furniture. So of course the size of the unit and the location depend on how much it's going to cost. But on average, we normally say like $8,000 to $15,000 to get started. Now, yeah, that does not have to be your own cash, but we use business credit, and we teach all of our students to use business credit.
I actually have an equity position in a local company here that helps get business funding. And so I'm all in on that business model too. So I'm a big fan. You had a very popular video go viral, your first YouTube video that got almost 1 million views, about making $3 million. And I think this is another instance of the confusion where you guys have been pretty transparent about how much you make on Airbnb. I mean, one podcast you say you're making $300,000 a year on Airbnb, and then another you said you made millions. So hold on, wait, why is there discrepancy? You mentioned you made $3 million, and so why do you think there's confusion? And then, if you don't mind breaking down like where that number came from.
Yeah, so I think every time I talk about the income that I make, I try to keep it separate from what I make as an Airbnb host and then what I make as an entrepreneur, because they are separate. So from Airbnb, we are 6-figure Airbnb hosts. I would say at this point, we've brought in total since we began probably over $450,000 from Airbnb. Last year, we finished off the year a little over $380,000 for the year. And then since starting Airbnb and seeing success, we started a coaching program, which I did talk about in the video. And so that's where the difference comes in between the millions and then the 6 figures. So as coaches and short-term rental coaches, we've brought in millions from that source of income.
Yeah, absolutely. Done really well. And now I think it's time to bring up the video. And I've got my phone out because I've got the claims that were made, there was a big video that exposed you, and I had received a couple messages, hey, expose these people, they're scamming. And so now I'm going to give you a chance to kind of address some of the big claims. So the first one that I find really interesting is she did claim that you use your minority status to sell to your community, which I thought was a little odd because you just brought up your background, and then it was almost used against you in a way. So I was wondering, like, what was your first response to that?
My first thought on that was that when I was sharing and like talking in that video, I was just sharing my story. In my head, I wasn't using who I am or like being a minority as a selling point. I think it was more of a point of reference for people to relate to me, because I know that as someone who is Black, Hispanic, and Muslim, a lot of people will feel like it's not possible for them to start something just because of, I think, the way that society is. And so I just want people to know that it doesn't matter if you're Black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, it's possible for you. And so that was kind of where I was going with that. It wasn't a selling point. Like it definitely was not that.
Yeah. And I'm curious from both of y'all, what do you think separates like a coaching business from being a scam and something that's legitimate?
It's subjective, right? So when you start a coaching business, there's obviously fulfillment on. So when your customer buys, if they don't get access to it right away and you don't have a customer support team to email, you're kind of a scammer.
Yeah, you accepted money and you never delivered a product.
Exactly. But in that journey, so much can happen. Automations don't always work. People put in the wrong emails. So it's like, it's more so subjective what people think. But I think if you make a product and it isn't what you bought, like that actually is a scam. You know what I mean? Like it lacks on value. And you're not doing what you're teaching, like you actually never did it and you kind of just like start talking about it, I would consider it to be a scam. But if you take a course and you don't apply it and you don't go through the materials and do that, it's not a scam. You just didn't complete it and you didn't even give enough time to work for you. So
I agree.
I think the difference between things that are a scam and aren't a scam are like, if someone pays for something and they don't get what they paid for, or they're getting something that's not what they expected, in terms of just like they're not being delivered what was told that it would be delivered, I think that's a scam. You can never just take someone's money and not deliver. Yeah. I think the difference is a lot of people now think that any coaching program is a scam because it's a service that people are paying for. And I think people forget that digital products are still a service just like anything else. People buy clothes. It's not a scam when you're giving someone money to get a shirt because they're telling you, if you give me $20, I will give you this t-shirt. And so I think even when it comes to coaching or digital products, people have to understand, if you're paying $500 for a course and they tell you, if you give me $500, this is what you're going to learn, just because you don't apply it, or like Bryson said, sometimes we have people who sign up with the wrong email. Like, that doesn't mean that it's a scam. It works if you work, but digital products are obviously different than other services. So I see where that kind of gets confusing.
Yeah, and I think a key is that you don't overhype. You don't oversell. Like if I haven't seen all of your ads, but theoretically, if you said, I can guarantee you'll make X amount of dollars per month if you just buy the course, that's where it starts getting a little tricky because it's a little misleading. All right, number 2. She seems snarky towards your success. Like I sense, like watching that video, it seemed like there was a little bit of a vitriol towards you getting so many Airbnbs at such a young age. And I think you being very young, it certainly throws up red flags. Like, oh, wait a second, that's not possible to get that many Airbnbs. So I can understand from her perspective. But what was your first response to like maybe people discrediting the fact that you had 11 Airbnbs at the time?
I think for me, it was a little disheartening because me and Bryson really started sharing our journey as soon as we started, like even after we got our first Airbnb. And then as we started scaling, we shared our journey from the beginning on social media, what it looked like going back to St. Louis, setting them up, putting in the hard work and time. And so I think for one video to come out and then everyone's like, oh, she never had those Airbnbs. I'm like, what about all the months that I sat there and put in all of that hard work? And I brought everyone with me on the journey to show them. To me, it was just kind of disheartening that one video could take away the credibility of everything that I've shown for months, if not now, like a couple years in the making.
And when we first started, I would make videos like my first month making 5K on Airbnb. I was crusty, made a video like I made 5K from one Airbnb. If I get 10 of these, I can make 50K. So it wasn't like we just popped up and made 50K on Airbnb in 1 month. It was like, this was calculated, like this is the plan, and we just followed it.
Yeah, it was planned. I remember when Bryson made that video, he was big on and so literally exactly what he said is just what we did. And when we learned that one Airbnb could make us for the first one that we had in our first couple months, we were profiting anywhere from like $4,000 to $5,000. So in Bryson's mind, he's like, if we get 10 of these, that's $50,000 in a month. And so seeing it actually come to life was amazing, and it was amazing to share with other people.
I mean, there's Instagram lives of us setting up furniture in Airbnbs, our Airbnbs. There's like
painting them at like 4 a.m., having to sleep in them. It was
in the U-Haul, like looking crusty too, like actually looking crusty, like we were there doing it, you know.
Yeah, I think another claim that was made is just the idea that you can't afford, when you first hear 11, you go, oh, well, real estate properties, you need a lot of capital to have one property times 11. That's a significant amount of money. And so I can understand maybe from an outsider's perspective going, wait a second, they're so young having 11. Where did they even get the startup capital? So maybe share with how does someone go from 0 to 11? What am I missing here?
Yeah, so I've been working since I was 15 years old. When we started Airbnb, I had a couple $1,000s saved. Me and Bryson both used a little bit of saved cash that we had. It wasn't obviously enough to get started. And then we started by using personal credit for the rest. Then after we got our first Airbnb, we realized that we shouldn't use personal credit instead, or not shouldn't, but there's better ways to do it, like getting business credit. And so then we realized, like, okay, let's do it all under a company. Let's get business credit. And so I personal guaranteed an Amex Business Platinum card, and
I had my own Amex too.
Yeah, Bryson had his own Amex already. After he got his, he's like, try to get one. And so then we just started using business credit to fund the initial startup.
There were a couple other things that were red flags to this creator. The idea that you help people get business set up in 1 week and the funding aspect of it. And so maybe just address that, like for students, more so on the coaching perspective. You know, when you guys are helping students get set up, are you finding that a lot of them are actually able to get started without, you know, I don't know, maybe under $10,000 in cash and maybe get a business set up within a week? Maybe, or from the coaching perspective, what are you seeing?
When it comes to setting up your business in a week, once you have that LLC, you're a business.
I think that was misunderstood as like business as in a week you'll have your Airbnb listed, but that's not. I think we were coming at it as we can help you set up your Airbnb business in as little as a week. So from what you learn, if you just implement it, you can have your LLC created. You can already have set up your website. You can have applied for, or I guess not business credit yet. But like in a week, you can already have created that foundation, which is that business and that company for your Airbnb business.
Yeah, and you're probably 30 to 60 days of hunting for owners that would be open to the idea too. Like there's obviously a process to this.
Yeah. We have a lot of students who do get from starting to getting their Airbnb listed and getting bookings. We have a lot of students who do that within a month of starting. So it's definitely possible to do it very quick if you just put in the work, but the time does vary on how much you're like working at it.
Like that's dependent on the student. Like everyone who buys the program isn't going to be spending full time going through all the modules and applying. Some people actually do take their time, but that isn't on us. You know what I mean? Like our job is to give you the resources and put the stuff, put the team behind you to actually help you be successful. We can't guarantee that you are going to be successful.
Yeah, that's the value of a coaching business. You give them all the tools and resources, you push them in the right direction, and then at some point they gotta take it on their own.
You gotta log on to your classes. You know?
Yeah. A big part of that video, there was a section about Stay Alluring, a website called Stay Alluring, and so I was curious what that website was or what its purpose was.
So our Stay Alluring website isn't to get bookings. It's not to attract guests. It's so that when we reach out to landlords, we look professional. It's our private booking website. And what me and Bryson saw when we first got started on Airbnb, we were only 19. We were trying to figure it out. We saw other short-term rental websites that were huge, that had properties everywhere. I'm talking like every single city in America. And we noticed that they were securing Airbnbs in St. Louis. And I kept thinking, how are they getting these Airbnbs? Because we at first didn't know that you had to reach out and ask for a corporate lease or a business application. And then we realized that they were doing it all under that company. And the way that they were doing it was by presenting this website and asking for a corporate lease. So once we realized that, we were like, okay, we have to make a website for ourselves and try to approach it professionally if we want to get a yes at 19. So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
It was more so just copying the big guys. Like, you know how trading is follow the big money? Well, if this company has 30 units in St. Louis, like, let's just copy them and see what we can do.
Do what's
they
working.
Had a lot. Yeah. They had several in one building that we wanted to get into. And so we were like, okay, if they're doing it. And we actually knew someone who was, she was one of the managers at a building in St. Louis. And she told us, like, we only allow Airbnb if it's done under a short-term rental company. There's a specific way you have to do it. And so she was like, even when reaching out, you have to reach out professionally. You have to have a website. So we're like,
And she helped us. We were like, how do we fill out those applications? Like EIN number, business name, business, like when you set it up.
She's like, it's completely separate from you guys as people. It's your company. And so that's how we realized, like, okay, this is not like me and Bryson's Airbnbs that we're getting. This is a short-term rental company, and we really have to approach it that way.
Another website that was brought up that was a big part of the video, it's like, ooh, really got you here, is handsfreeairbnb.com, I think it was called. And it was the moment of that video, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty compelling evidence. And so you two were testimonials on the website. So it's your business apparently, but then you're also the testimonials. And so that looked a little shady. And so I'm going to let you share what the truth is to that.
So I saw that in the video, claiming that Hands Free B&B was me and Bryson's company. It's not. My sister actually saw that because me and Bryson live in Nevada and all of our Airbnbs are in St. Louis, and so many of our other students as well have Airbnbs that are not in the state that they live in, she realized that there was a demand and a need for people who wanted to get their Airbnbs set up in states or cities that they didn't live in. And so she was like, can I do a test on you guys and I'll see if I really want to start this company. Can I set up your guys' Airbnbs for you? And me and Bryson we did not want to go back to St. Louis and set up the new units. So we were like, okay, we'll let you do it. And this is like your test run to see if you want to do the business and for us to see if you're even good at it and if we trust you to fully set up our Airbnb. So we bought all of our furniture and everything. We shipped it to the units and she flew to St. Louis. She set it up. She set up one for me and Bryson for our units and one for my mom. And she did a great job. She took pictures after, it was her first time. So she FaceTimed me a lot during the process. And she was like, did you want this in this room or whatever? And then I kind of just told her, I'll let you be creative with it. I ordered enough stuff for every room, do your best. And she did a great job. Our cleaner was going and she was like, yeah, I see more is being done. She did it in 3 or 4 days, I think, set up 3 Airbnbs. So it's not our business. It's my sister's business that she never even really got started.
Her and her partner.
Yeah, her and her partner. That they never really even got started because once they really wanted to and they realized that it was something they wanted to do, sadly that video came out and kind of put a negative light on her business. That's not even ours. And the testimonials aren't fake. She set up our Airbnbs. She did a great job. So we left her good reviews. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like, that'd be killer if you guys could have all of your coaching students in different cities and then have also a fulfillment from the cleaning side or design side. You could have a really vertical alignment.
It's business 101. Just keep attaching things and services to it to where it's real. It's not just a course, a digital product. We're just trying to attach on. If it's family, it's a family business, why not?
And so even for her, when she had that idea, I told her, I was like, that's amazing because we do have people all the time that tell us, is it possible for me to start in another state? And so I was like, it would make it easier for our students because they can just, when we tell them, yes, you can, now we can tell them we actually know a company that can do it for you.
And so one of the big parts of that video, and I think it became a part 2 or part 3 of this little series against you two, was the idea of harassing and doxing, which was interesting because there was no real proof. And so seeing that video was very compelling. I didn't know you two. I was like, man, this does not look good for you. Let's be real. It's not good that you're harassing her. And so I want to let you speak about that, what, your first reaction to that, and then also what, your perspective of this story is.
I think our initial response of not responding to the first one made things appear a way that they wasn't. We just chose not to respond because think about in school, if someone says something about you, you kind of just go on about your day. We chose that's the internet, we're real life, we're good people. Just gonna let it go away. But it just didn't go away like that.
Yeah, and when I first saw the video, it's actually funny. We were on vacation in St. Martin, enjoying our time, and then someone commented under one of my Instagram posts, did you see the video of you being exposed? And I know myself, so I'm like, there's literally nothing in the world that I could be exposed on. In my head, I'm like, what could? So I thought it was just I click on it and I watched the whole thing through. It was actually me, Bryson, my brother, my mom, and immediately I was I felt sad, I felt disheartened, I just felt angry. I was I didn't understand why the video was being made about me, and the fact that so many points were so far from the truth, I was so confused. And initially, I was I want to make a response video right now. This is so not true. And then I realized, just like Bryson said, in real life, I don't respond to negativity. I don't respond to people who make things up about me or assumptions. When people comment under my, whatever it is, Instagrams or TikToks, I never address it if it's negative. I don't give them my time. And so at first I wanted to respond. And then I was also like, why give it my time if it's so far from the truth? It's just an assumption. It's not true. And so I just left it alone. But I think us leaving it alone was for everyone else almost like an admittance to guilt because we didn't respond. And so I was very back and forth with like, should I make a video with just all the facts that can make everyone be like, oh, okay, it's not true? Or should I even give it my time and do all that and feed into it and make it, because I really didn't want to like go down to that level and make it become like a back and forth type thing.
It was also like when we saw that, we looked at our community. It was like we have like 2,000 people in our community. Like, regardless of what this video says, like we have people who we've helped and we talk to every day, and it's kind of like, does it really matter? And when we weighed the two, it was like we have real people who were actually helping, real people getting money with Airbnb. Like, does it really matter? And to us at that time, it's like no.
And we actually did make a post in our community. We made a post about it, like just addressing it to everyone, and we were like, for any of you who might have seen this, I hope you guys know that. And we kind of just touched on it a little to them. And so many of our students even were like, yeah, we saw that. We commented. It's not like anyone who knows you guys or is in your program knows that it's not true. And all of their comments were deleted on the video. So I feel like it's very clear that an agenda was trying to be made, and it wasn't what is the truth about Inayah's business or me and Bryson's business or STR launch. It wasn't the truth. It was a narrative that wanted to be painted that way. And it just was, unfortunately, very far from the truth. But from what was gathered, I can see how those assumptions were made. But I feel like if a question was just asked, even if that creator had came to us and said, I'm seeing these things and I'm thinking about making a video because I want to protect the community or protect people from being scammed. Is this true? We could have said absolutely not. And I can show you the facts on how everything that you believe is true is not true. But we never had the chance.
Yeah, my ethics, I believe, improved greatly after I had videos made about me. And no one ever reached out and like look for the truth. And you're like, oh, everything you're saying is wrong and you're painting it in a different light. And like there's such an obvious agenda here. And I have done a much better job of reaching out to the creators. What's unfortunate is a lot of people don't see all the videos I don't make. They don't see all the times where I actually reach out to someone and then they show objective proof of a story not being true, and then I don't make the video. So unfortunately, people can't see that side of me, that I actually do a bunch of research and I'm only coming out with a video after proof of whatever the story is or whatever the allegations are. And I hope that I can start a trend that way of like, hey, if we're going to make exposed videos or fake guru videos, which have good intentions, we're trying to protect the general public from bad actors, we do need to have some type of guidelines of you do need to at least contact the person or get them in the video or at least try to hear their side of the story before you throw out some allegations. But there was a comment on that video that I want to bring up that I thought was really interesting.
And before you even do that,
go ahead.
When you reached out, I was honored, right?
Oh,
because
good.
it's more so, if you have a question, we are more than happy to answer it. But the fact that you asked before, like you didn't make your own story and then post it and leave it to us to like scramble. You asked and it was like, this is great.
And for everyone on my lives all the time, there are some people who just, after seeing that video, they label me like, you are a scammer. And so for those people, I don't really have anything to say because in your head, you've already came to the conclusion that I'm a scammer and there's nothing that I can say that's going to change your mind, in my opinion. And then there's people who ask and they're like, hey, I saw this video, I have a question. And I invite those people, I'm like, please ask the questions because I can give you the answer and you'll realize that video was so far from the truth. It's just hard when people don't ask questions and they see something and they immediately form their opinion, and it's a definite opinion. It's like a definite fact that we are now, in fact, scammers. And it's like, why would we have 2,000 students of people who are seeing success and we can,
We meet our students in person, by the way.
If we were scammers, I think those 2,000 people would probably be showing up at our door, or there'd be 2,000 videos of people saying like, yes, they took our money, they didn't deliver, but that's not the case. We have people saying we signed up and we got our first Airbnb or second or third, and we're making this much more money per month. And so I know that for the people who are actually know me and Bryson, or the people who come into our program and they apply themselves, they know that it's not true. Anyone who knows me and Bryson knows that it's not true. And so it's kind of just like, do we just let opinions from other people make a difference, or the people who know us and in real life know us, like which one holds more weight?
Yeah, what's actually really funny is, so I made a video back in November that upset some people, and right away I lost about 2,000 subscribers. This was a video that was seen like mostly by my audience. It was not a video that got pushed to the general audience, and you could see the numbers, by the way. And so I lost like 2,000 subscribers, like some people upset, but this wasn't like a career ender. And then there were videos that rolled in a week later, 2 weeks later, and then all of a sudden the subscriber numbers dropped more because people were buying into what other videos were saying about me. And so it's interesting how powerful videos can be. I mean, there's real power and influence in making kind of quote-unquote exposed videos, and that's something that I've held true to myself, of knowing that power and responsibility. One of my big creator friends, Andre Jick out here, one of the first times I met him, he's like, hey man, just FYI, like you have way more power than you realize. Just make sure you are acting responsibly with it. And it's something I've held true to myself since then. And so the comment on that video that I want to bring up is, all I know is that you saved me from that Airbnb scammer and her man. I was going to pay money for their scam, and your video helped me to see the light. Thank you, and don't stop doing what you're doing. And it was just really interesting, the thought that there's probably been some people out there that might have benefited from your course or your coaching program, and maybe they don't buy because of scammer. And even if you want to go deeper into like all of the coaches across all the social media, like there's probably some people out there that could benefit from buying a course or a service, and they see one video and immediately don't buy the product, and then their life isn't. So you have a sense of de-influence, like negative influence. I don't know, I was just curious if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, I post more testimonials nowadays than I post myself, because when we stepped into the coaching business, it was to help people. So to now see people, like we see where you were before and we see where you were after joining the program, that is so exciting to me. Like that is the best thing ever. It feels like I really changed their life. So when it comes to people basing it off one video, like I understand how you could see it that way, but it is also your responsibility to not take one source and use it as that. If do your own due diligence, like look around, search around, ask people. We're pretty open, and I goes live almost every single night. Like,
and anyone who asks me a question, I answer it every time I tell them. And so I think that, like you said, courses aren't for everyone. Everyone doesn't need them. Before I started even doing what I do now, I used to try a whole bunch of things, and most of the time how I learned was from YouTube. I did a lot on YouTube, but the thing is with YouTube is you can find a lot of information, but it also takes a lot of time to find everything that you need because you don't know what you don't know. So I'd sit there looking, and I would think that I found everything till I hear something new, and I'm like, wait, I didn't even know that was something I needed to know. So then I have to go back again and do some more research. And so it wasn't until little by little I realized that maybe just learning from people who have already done it will save me time, save me money, save me energy. But there's people who, like, everyone is different, and some people don't need a course. Some people don't want a course. Some people do. And so, like you said, maybe that girl or whoever left the comment, maybe they would have actually benefited from the course. And it does suck that her video then swayed them away from it. Who knows if they even tried Airbnb now? And what if they came through our course and they had tried it and it changed their life? Or maybe even not through our course, but whether it be on YouTube or a different creator or a different coach that they would have learned from, who knows if that video could have swayed them away from even trying something that could have changed their life? Because Airbnb truly is what changed me and Bryson's life.
Now that I have a course, I know the value of what it can do to people's lives. I mean, I've been mentoring people in the house hacking space offline. I've been having a mentorship here, like a mastermind here for house hacking. And one of my first students lives out in San Diego, and she's paying $4,000 a month in rent. She's now going to house hack and live for free. That's $50,000 a year more in her pocket every year, because she's implementing what I teach. And so I know the power of courses. Like, good courses can change people's lives. And so I think my next question, though, is the idea of like get rich quick, because people associate courses, get rich quick. I was just curious, what are your thoughts on get rich quick? What does it even mean to you?
I mean, I don't think that people can't not get rich quick, I guess, if that's worded right. But I do think that the whole like idea of like, I think get rich quick, or like the get rich quick scheme, has like a very negative connotation on it now. But like, I can say that at least for me and Bryson's growth and success, it did happen pretty quick, but also it was a long time, and it took a lot of intentional actions and a lot of effort into it. So I wouldn't really even say that it was like quick. It's been a long time in the making, but
it's not something for nothing. You do have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Meaning you may see us go from 3 million to 6 million or 3 million in 6 months and think that's all it took. like she said, it was a lot of back behind there. Like even the mindset of even making ourselves believe that we can even do that happened years ago. That like when you don't come from money, you have probably 18 years of the wrong type of thinking. To change that takes a lot of time. So we did go from 3 million or 0 to 3 million in 6 months, but it took a lot of work.
For sure. And I think it's really interesting, though, the concept of get rich quick has been changed a lot, because I'm in the coaching space, too. So I'm right there with you. Realistically, I could show people how to reduce their living expenses by $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. But yet, all courses now are associated with this idea of getting rich quick. But I've seen the advertising across the space actually get a lot better. I don't see really any of that advertising anymore. But when people see a course, you're selling a course, you're teaching get rich quick schemes, like, wait a second, is $1,000 a month getting rich quick? To me, that's not rich. Yeah. Maybe I'm fortunate to hang out with like a awesome crew, but $1,000 a month, that's a lot of these different like business opportunities, income streams. $1,000 a month is not only attainable, but you can absolutely get it if you put in the work.
There is advertising out there that will tell you, hey, buy my course, you'll get a Lambo like me. Buy my course, you'll have a private jet. We don't do that. Like, we kind of keep it real. Like, one Airbnb will not put you in a Lambo. Like, you do have to build a business. It's still a business. The course is teaching you how to do it, but we cannot make you, we can't control your hands and make you go and build that furniture. It's not going to happen that way. And we are very transparent that coaching income is not Airbnb income. The G-Wagon is not directly from Airbnb. Like, it's two separate things, and we have never told anyone that you will have a G-Wagon or Rolls Royce by taking this course. Never.
Yeah, I do think that sometimes with marketing, it can get a little bit slippery, because it's almost like how the consumer interprets it or takes it in if you're not really direct with what you're saying. And so I think there can be a lot of misunderstanding there. But yeah, in terms of the get rich quick, I think that's also like a consumer interpretation thing, because some people, when they hear that, they think, okay, I don't have to put work in. If I just buy this course, I'll have $58,000 a month. But when I tell people, like, you do have to put the work in, I think people sometimes also underestimate what that work is, or they overestimate it, and they'll overcomplicate it and think it's not possible for them. But the thing is like, it's actually so much more attainable. Like how you said, like $12,000 a month, that's not get rich quick, because $12,000 is not rich.
$12,000 a year. Yeah.
Even making 6 figures a year is not rich. And so
not in America. In Las Vegas, you could be making 6 figures a year and you're doing well, but you're certainly not rich.
Still probably living paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. And so it's like,
I was hanging out, the marketing part's really interesting. I was hanging out with a guy the other day, a couple weeks back. I was down in Florida, and he's probably sold like 100 million of digital courses. And he told me, like, Spencer, you won't believe it, but I tried to do everything, like the no gimmicks, no marketing, no one bought. And then like you start going into no money down, no money, it starts working. So like that's a whole nother discussion for another day about like the marketing of like where the ethical line is, which I don't think there was ever an ethical line crossed, but some people start to see the water's getting murky. One comment that I saw that was prevalent was this idea that you two are fake gurus. And so I was curious of what your opinion on what a fake guru is and why you don't think you are.
So even back to that, I think that I don't even know what a guru like really even is. I really didn't even start hearing that, because
a guru is like it's like a public educator.
Someone they're the expert, they're positioning themselves as an expert, and through some paid product or service, they will help you gain the expertise.
Okay. So I think that the only time people can be like fake gurus, maybe like Bryson said, if they've never even done it before. But even that, I mean, I guess if they've learned, maybe they can teach. But also, if you don't have any even personal input to put in, it could be a little bit hard there. Or if you're selling or teaching something that does not actually work or doesn't translate, or you can't actually teach it. I think the reason that me and Bryson are not fake gurus is because we actually started Airbnb at 19. We actually had Airbnbs. We have Airbnbs. We know what it's like to be Airbnb host. We know the ups and the downs. We know what's worked, what hasn't worked. And of course, it's all personal experience. Other people who have been in Airbnb might have a completely different experience.
I mean, there are people with more Airbnbs than us.
Yeah. And so we don't know everything, but we know enough that it's gotten us to where we are. And so we share our experience. This is where we are. This is the success that we've had. And if people who like that, or if they want to start Airbnb or have similar goals, they can see that this is what we did and this is how we got here. And so if you want something similar, if you maybe follow the same things or certain things that have worked for us, it could work for you too, because it is what worked for us. And so I think it all is like kind of
I mean, and even that, it's more, we also, when we're selling, like the big thing was no money down. We'll tell people you need 8K to 15K in cash or credit. And then it was a money back guarantee of like, if it isn't working for you within 30 days, you'll know. We'll give you your money back. Just show us that you tried. So it's like, we're not over promising like this will work for you. We understand that it's also a course. We understand that we're not perfect and what worked for us may not work for you, but try it and actually try it.
Yeah, I think fake guru is someone who is selling expertise that they don't have themselves. For instance, if you had no Airbnbs, then that would make you a fake guru. Like you're selling the sauce and you don't have it. Yeah, scam fake guru is a little
something that I've never even done.
Exactly.
You know? So it's like,
yeah. So if you actually have it, and I would argue, we've talked about this off camera. I would argue that someone with your position, I would actually rather learn from you than someone with 100, because 100 can probably teach you how to scale. But if you're at 0, if they're watching you for the first time, I would want to learn from you because you were just maybe a year or two ago in my position. I can probably best learn from you. Like, you know the struggles, you can relate. Like, oh, I know what the feeling's like. But once you get to 100, it's like, bro, just do it. That's usually the best. Just do it once you get to that level.
And when I started, my mindset, it started off at $50. Just to be transparent, it was like, I do not know everything, but I can get you from 0 to 1.
of course, yeah.
I can
That's the
get
key.
you.
That's the key with courses is how can I go from 0 to 1?
That's it. I can't take you from A to Z, but I can take you from A to B, B to C, and as I learn more, I'll put it in the course. But
and the funniest part is, like you said, in the video that was made, it talks about selling a false dream or promising the world or whatever terms were used. But I think, like Bryson said, we actually don't do that intentionally. When people say, like, can you guarantee me that it would make money? Every single time I tell them, it is never a guarantee. It's a business. You are always taking a risk. You have to accept that risk. That is why do your research, be as knowledgeable as you can, do the most research that you can so you're hopefully going into it as best as possible, as prepared as possible, but there is never a guarantee that it will work and it will make you money. But if you do research and you try your best and you listen to people who have done it and they can tell you what does work, you have a higher chance of it working for you. And like Bryson said in the video as well, it was also talked about that we make it seem a lot easier to get into than it actually is. But I also think that's very false, because we do a free class every single week where we teach people how to get started, and we tell them our experience, our journey. We tell them how much money they need to get started. We tell them how to get business credit, and we teach them that, yeah, you're not using your own cash, but you do need some sort of funding. You still need, on average, $8,000 to $15,000 to get started. You're still going to have to reach out to these landlords. And in the video, it was claimed that that creator came to our class, but then it was also claimed that we lie about how easy it is to get started and we make it seem a lot easier than it actually is. But if that creator actually came to our class with the intention to figure out the truth, it wouldn't be but did you know that it's actually thousands to get started? Because of course, anyone who already watches my content does know that. I say it anytime it's asked. It's never something that's hidden. I'm just trying to be as realistic as possible, because my goal isn't to sell a course or for someone to join my program. My goal in my content is for people to hear my story, for me to share, hopefully for me to be an inspiration, and for people to understand, if anyone wants to start the business, what it actually entails. And of course, I can only say so much in my content, and then people are like, oh, how come you didn't say this or didn't say that? But it's like, I can't say everything in every single
video. Give me the 4-hour masterclass for free on YouTube.
But it's like,
Or pack it in 30 seconds. And if you don't have it in 30 seconds,
I want the whole business in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I think one of the best criticisms, though, in the comment section is, why would you start teaching a course if it's creating competition? That's like a common criticism of anyone who sells courses. And so I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that type of criticism?
I always think about the Las Vegas Strip, of how there's like literally hotel after hotel after hotel, and they're all doing fine. Like, it does not...
They're doing great. They're not just doing
amazing,
fine.
Yeah.
It does not hurt
the
me
Sphere's
that
up now, another $1 billion building. They're everywhere.
You get an Airbnb Wisconsin, I don't care.
It doesn't make a difference to me. And I'm always adapting. Me and Bryson, as the Airbnb hosts, are always adapting. And so everyone always says that, why would you be teaching others if it's going to create competition? There's way more travelers in the world than could even possibly stay in our... At most, when we had the 11 arbitrage units, or now when we have our 6 arbitrage units, we only have 6 units. Everyone who travels, we can't host them all.
And
you know what
at
I mean?
our peak, We were in a building of that big company. They had like 15 Airbnbs in that building. We had like, what, 3 or 4?
I think there's 10,000 Airbnbs in Vegas right now, like just in Vegas alone.
And so, you know what it's like?
It's a very scarce mindset, because the same thing when someone's selling how to sell on Amazon. It's like, why are you creating competition? It's like, bro, come on. Do you not understand how much revenue they do?
How many different products there are to sell, or how many people are buying. There's more. It's all about like the supply and the demand. And I know that me personally, I don't have enough supply for the demand of travelers. So I don't care if there's 1,000 more Airbnbs or 20,000 more. I'm going to look at my competition. I'm always going to make sure that I'm, if I can, at least as good, if not better than theirs. And so I know my business is going to do well regardless. I am trying my best at it. I'm putting my best foot forward. I don't care if there's 1,000 more, even in the same city as me.
And there's two sides to that coin of like, if you get too rich and you don't tell people, it's like, why aren't you telling me how you did it? And like, so it's like, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to know? Or do you not want us to tell you?
Well, that's actually something interesting to get brought up is another main criticism, and I'm going to stand with you on this side because on one side of the coin, because I'm a course seller as well, but it is, if you were so successful, why are you charging? Why don't you give it away for free? So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
The funny thing is that when we first started talking about our journey, I was getting hundreds of DMs per day on every single platform. Me as one person, I physically cannot answer everyone as much as I want to. You can ask Bryson, when we first started, all day, I would sit on my phone and answer people and answer people and answer people. And eventually, it's like, even if I wanted to, but even then, like, I also don't want to sit on my phone texting people all day. As much as I would love to help you, I can't do that. I don't have the time. But yeah, it's just not possible to reach all these people and do it that way. And also, if this is a skill set that can genuinely change your life or help you create another stream of income, that whatever your goal is, if it's to leave your 9 to 5, if you love your 9 to 5 and you just want more money on the side, or whatever the reason is that you want to get into Airbnb, if I can help you and it's genuinely something that is good for you and can create a whole another stream of income, why would we not charge for putting all of our time into something? Because our time is still valuable no matter how much we've made from Airbnb. We now spend so much of our time on our students and our coaching company. And so it's not possible for us. And the business itself has expenses. So a coaching company, or at least for me and Bryson, it's not just a course. We have an entire team behind our students.
But it could be just a course though. Like we could just run it as a 2-people operation. Here's your course. That's it. We've chosen not to.
Yeah, and we've had free materials before. Like we've had free ebooks, but then it's also like, I mean, I don't know. It goes into like that back and forth of like, you could have both mindsets to everything, but it's also like if we are pouring our time, our energy, our resources, everything that we've learned as hosts into something, also if it could help us both and be another income stream for us, but genuinely help you change your life if you apply it, why would we not charge for it? And now the scale that we're at, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses
Every month.
every single
Payroll
month
costs.
from our coaching company. It's not possible for it to be free. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to.
And even that on Sunday, the class is free.
Yeah.
It is free. And when it comes time to buy, people are like, why would I buy it? You gave me everything I need. So it's like, it's the mix of how much of it can be free and how much of it cannot be. But we are not the type of people to, like, how do I say it? We give you everything you need. We genuinely do. We don't hold back. And if you want to commit and join the program, we give you the option to.
Our class normally goes for 2.5 hours.
Every
we
week.
do it every single Sunday at 4, and we have never missed a Sunday. And so it's like, we spend 2.5 hours on this class teaching people. And me and Bryson, we have went back in and changed this class so many times, trying to make it as best as it can be for the students. How can they understand it the best? How can they take it in the best? How can they fully get as much value as they possibly can in this 2.5 hours that they're on this class? And then, yeah, there are still people who after the class, they're like, can you help me? Can you help me get started? And so that's why we have the coaching program to help those people. But then that's where there's that imbalance of people who don't understand.
Some people ask, do I need your program to be successful? We'll tell you. No.
You don't. It's not, everyone doesn't need it. Some people don't need a push. Some people don't need someone to guide them. Some people are amazing at taking information and acting on it. But there are tons of people also who get information. They feel overwhelmed. They don't know, how to actually start with implementing the first step, or some people are alone getting into the business. I don't know for anyone you as an entrepreneur understand it's kind of hard when you become an entrepreneur. There's not many people that are like you. There's not many, at least for me and Bryson, we are very young. There's not many people our age that are doing it. We were alone doing it. And so for someone who doesn't want to be alone, to have a community of a whole bunch of people on the same journey as them, or coaches who they can get on a call and the coaches will guide them to getting their first Airbnb, it's helpful for the people that it works for, if that makes sense.
This actually brings up a really interesting point, which is you two are very transparent and clear about making more from coaching that you do from Airbnb. And so I was wondering what your opinions are on that, because I know some people are going to feel a certain type of way about that.
Two separate business models, two separate requirements, two separate costs to run the business. It's not the same.
Yeah, I think they're very different. And I think that having success in our coaching business doesn't minimize the success that we had with Airbnb. And so what do they always say? Like, the biggest thief of joy is like comparison. And so people will be excited or will be happy hearing that you can make 6 figures from Airbnb. And there are people who make millions from Airbnb. Me and Bryson just don't yet. So people will hear that, but then they're like, but you make millions from coaching, or but you've made millions from coaching. So is Airbnb even successful? Or why would you be coaching if you were having success from Airbnb? But we have made 6 figures as Airbnb hosts, and making 7 figures as short-term rental coaches or entrepreneurs, it doesn't minimize that we made 6 figures from Airbnb. And just like Bryson said, they're completely different cost points, and they're completely different businesses that entail 2 different things. Whereas we were able to start our Airbnb arbitrage or rental arbitrage at 19 years old. We were able to start, we had a couple $1,000s in personal savings, and then we used credit. We were able to get started. We were able to scale. It worked. Then with our coaching business, we only even started coaching because we had success with Airbnb and people wanted to learn, how can I get started? So then we started another business, but it took so much more just even thought every day. Me and Bryson I'm not even kidding, we don't even put 10 minutes a day into Airbnb anymore. Everything is automated. We maybe, if a guest reaches out, we might have to reach back out to them a couple times. It's very little that's put in once your business is going. With our coaching business, it's the complete opposite. We have students who genuinely need guidance every single day. We have a team of people behind these students that need,
let's talk about the team.
We have a huge team of people.
2 full-time account managers. These are not VA across the country, across the world. These are Americans. They are paid full-time salaries. 3 full-time customer support teams, student advisors, success coaches, managers to make sure everyone's doing their part to help our students. So it's different.
And even from that, me and Bryson are specialized in Airbnb, but we understand that more goes into it than just that. Because even when we started, we had a lot of things to learn in terms of getting business credit, or once it was time to file taxes, I was scared. I was like, I made this much money. I don't want to come and get audited. I want to do it all the right way. Let's hire tax professionals to tell us exactly how we're supposed to do it so that everything is done the right way. And so we know that we are not specialized in everything. We fully express that. We've hired coaches to come in who are specialized in certain industries like business credit or taxes to teach our students the pieces that me and Bryson know about, but we are not the experts. And even in Airbnb, kind of like going back to what we were talking about before, like what makes someone an expert, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Some people sell a course, some people sell a program. We take pride on the program. It is not something that you can just buy and be guaranteed success. It's a program. It's a form of education. Like, you don't just go to college and you're guaranteed a job after. You join this program, we give you everything you need to be successful, but you do have to show up and do it.
I think the very important element here is the fact that you separate your income. And so I think I have no problem, by the way, with making more money from selling courses or selling a program versus the actual business model, simply because of the scalability and all that. There's different factors that go into each. But the key here is if your sales pitch for Airbnb was, here's the cars, here's making millions, we will show you how to make millions from Airbnb, and you start lying and mixing the two, I think that's where it becomes an issue. But if you're very clear about, here's what you get with the program, here's the expectations, here's the likelihood of success, or here's how much work you're going to have to put into it, I see nothing wrong personally. But I do know that a lot of people will see that and get upset.
Yeah, for anyone who goes through my content, in every single video, I state that I'm a 6-figure Airbnb host. I have never said that I have made millions from Airbnb. And so I think that the line...
We haven't made
Yeah, and we haven't made millions from Airbnb. So I think that the line is very clear and we keep it very, like... We make it clear. And even going back to the college topic, which I find so funny... People don't call college a scam, really. And the people that do, like, some people will say, but it's like a joke. Like, they're not saying, like, college institutions are scammers. They're like, oh, college is a scam, I don't need it. They don't really mean that they're scammers. But people go to college and they pay a certain amount of money to learn from a professor who teaches them. And if they apply it and they go through what's taught, then maybe they'll come out with a good job. And no one calls that a scam. But for some reason, when you're taking a course or going through a program from someone who has probably actually done the things that they're teaching most of the time, not always, but most of the time, and they're teaching you, and you pay to learn, like, you don't get to go to college for free most of the time. And if you do, it's someone else is paying for it. But colleges charge for the information. And so why would it be any different from people? And so I think people just have to kind of open their mindset up a little and understand that it's not exactly what they think it is.
Generally, the people calling it a scam aren't going to buy anyway. And so I learned to just not even consider that. Like, you can share your opinion, but you're not going to buy anyway. The course is not for you. I can already tell.
To that point, when we did make a response video, we made the realization. Anyone who thinks that way and, like, they probably weren't our customers anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Not even our customers, but just people who weren't even meant to, like, whether it's a friend, someone I was going to network with, a customer.
It took me a while to understand that, but in one of my videos, I mentioned it was about a real estate investor who lost a lot of money, and I mentioned that, hey, I just came out with a course on if you want to actually learn how to make money, here's what I believe to be the best way to get started in real estate, which is house hacking. And I had a couple comments, oh, Spencer's now a fake guru scammer. Like, you haven't even looked at the product. So that tells me your intent, you don't even know what I sell. You're just immediately hear course, therefore scammer, but that's okay. You can have that opinion. My course is not for you. You're not going to benefit. You shouldn't buy. And you know what? I don't want you to buy because I don't want to deal with you because you're going to ask for a refund once you realize that I don't just hand you $1 million after signing up the course.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that people forget, if you even think about it logically, why do we make more money coaching than we do as Airbnb hosts? As Airbnb hosts, me and Bryson are changing, like, our lives. We've made our lives different from the income that we've created from Airbnb. But through coaching, not only did we change our lives, but we are changing so many more lives and allowing so many more people to create another stream of income for themselves. So even thinking about that, like, of course, we made 6 figures as Airbnb hosts, but we made 7 figures as short-term rental coaches because it's not just now one person who's seeing success with Airbnb. It's countless people who can now tell you we've done it and we're making more money and our lives are better from it in terms, like, financially, our lives are better. And so even thinking about it that way, why it makes sense why the coaching business makes more, because as Airbnb hosts, it impacts us and maybe our families. The short-term rental, like, coaching business impacts so many people and all of their families, and it could change so many people's entire lives. So,
I mean, the opportunity is different. As an Airbnb, I am only selling you a place to sleep and a place to hang out with your family.
And it impacts me and me alone.
On the coaching side, I'm selling you the opportunity for you to change your life with what I teach. Completely different.
Absolutely. You two teach Airbnb. You're in this business. You are in the Airbnb world, and right now in the news, there's a big Airbnb crash. A lot of YouTubers talking about anyone who got Airbnbs the last 2 or 3 years are probably going to get hurt. You're selling a system on people to get started in Airbnb and possibly make money. Are you worried at all that maybe there's a crash and that maybe your students are signing up for a type of business or investment opportunity that is no longer as lucrative?
I'm not worried. You want to know why?
Either.
We teach people how to research. We've made tools on how to research. So we give you, like, real deal research. Like, do not take that property if the data says it's not profitable. If the city is not profitable, if we see a downward slope, we teach our students how to look at these things and not just make a blind investment.
And I would say that overall, people probably do see a drop in revenue from Airbnb, but I think the reason is because people saw that you can make money from Airbnb. So a lot of people tried to get into it, but everyone didn't get into it the right way. And so a lot of those people became Airbnb hosts, or they got an Airbnb. They didn't do the proper research on it. They didn't research the address or the city. They didn't stage it well. They didn't do the best interior design. They didn't get professional photos. So now they've listed this Airbnb that from the beginning wasn't even projected to make a lot of money. Now they've listed it. It's not making a lot of money for many reasons. And then they come out like, well, Airbnb doesn't work. I've tried it before. But in me and Bryson's experience, in the ways that we've learned how to make them successful, and we've had our learning curves, we've had our months that went down when we were first starting. We're like, whoa, we have to reevaluate. Once we really figured out what works, we haven't seen a decrease in our bookings or our occupancy. Right now, it's slow season in Arizona. It's 120 degrees, and we are like, I think
Fully
over 95% booked out, which is like...
The best part about these stories, too, is when you look at the comments, people are like, yeah, that's right, Airbnbs are crushing home ownership, and all the people you can tell are very anti-Airbnb or anti-real estate investing. And then the people you can tell right away who actually own properties, like, my bookings are doing just fine. So it's just a reminder that what you see in the media, you got to be really careful with not only the source, but also the intentions of the source. There's people right now on YouTube who are getting a lot of views exposing the Airbnb crash. How many properties do they own? None. So are they going off data or are they going off news stories? But people get so hyped up, and this goes across the board. So I'm looking in the camera. Be careful about who you listen to. Always ask, what is their credibility and what are their intentions with the content? I hope Airbnb is just fine because I have one out here. And so anyway, I thought that was an interesting conversation. Is there anything else that you want to address? I thought we kind of addressed everything here.
Us as people, we are still people. We do see your scammer comments, and we're not scammers, but it's kind of like you wouldn't walk up to someone in public and say, scammer, and yell at them. That could be very dangerous. So it's the same thing of, like, it still applies. Like, still be a good person off the phone. Be a good person off the YouTube comment. You are real. Like, even when you're typing scammer and your intention behind that is not positive, it's worse for you than it is to me. Because me, it doesn't affect, but you just shifted something, and I don't know what you shifted, but it wasn't
Especially
positive.
when they don't know anything about you. They've seen one video or one little short somewhere and then immediately have a perception about you. There's a quote that I always live by, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood, and I always try to apply it, which is I need to know more about this, which is why I actually make terrible reaction comment, because like I got to know all the details, I got to reach out to them, I got to research into this, because I always try to understand both sides. I would try to understand the intentions, and then I try to figure out the context, and then I try to figure out if there's a story there. And I think generally people leaving those types of comments aren't interested in that. So it's just like a conflict of belief.
And don't believe what we say. Take what we say, try it, research, and make it happen. Don't just come to our class as fans. We are not celebrities. We are educators. So if we cannot give you value in that way, don't put us on this pyramid. Like, we're only supposed to be here if we're actually helping people and teaching people, which we are.
We do. Yeah, we have guarantees.
We now get what service?
There's different products that have...
Basically, that's a question for you that you can answer another day. But essentially, I think the refund policy is key too. Like if people sign up and they go through a couple lessons and maybe something happens in life, or if they just realize maybe it wasn't for them, if they can still get a refund, I think that is very, very essential here in the course selling business, that people are able to get refunds. In my experience doing what I do, I've had numerous people reach out about certain gurus. Hey man, things fell through, or I couldn't apply what was taught, and I asked for a refund, and they just wouldn't give a refund, which really bothers me, especially with the way some of the marketing is used, and then they don't even give refunds.
The refund policy has always been, if you try it and it doesn't work for you, we give you your money back.
But
that doesn't mean
actually try it. Like when we first started, it was if you go through the course in full, you implement it, and you actually try it, and it does not work. For whatever reason, it will not work, we will give you your money back, because we know that if you work, it works. For the people who don't work, we put our time in, and so we've had people who come and they might be international, and maybe for whatever reason with their visa or certain things, they come and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that this was a piece of the business. I'm not able to move forward on this step. We hear you and we say, okay, no worries. Thank you for trying it and for trying something for yourself. Here's your money back. Then there's people who just don't do the work, and then they're like, oh, I want my money back. And it's like, you didn't even try. Or they're like, it doesn't work. I'm not happy with the materials. It's too simple. Like, or this is not much more than what I learned in the free class. It's like, well, Airbnb is not that complicated. It's just that we are here to give you the step by step and to give you the resources and to really guide you. But it's like you haven't tried it, you know, and so
Yeah, and it's not like a try it, buy it, try it, and then I give my money back. Like when you buy a digital product, it is a product. So you can't just buy something, download it, watch it, and be like, actually,
yeah, it's like it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, because you could steal the secrets and then run off and apply and then get your money back too. I've heard a story about that. Anyone selling products or services online has so many stories for days about people stealing and basically stealing. They take the course, they consume it, and then get the refund, or take the product and say, oh, it wasn't any good, but they were able to use it and then give it back for refund. But anyway, thanks for joining me. This was fun. Hope it addressed all the allegations against you, all the accusations. And thanks for watching.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.